Hello and welcome to the Midweek conversation of First Baptist Sweetwater, where we strive to be the first responders of God's love. I'm your host, Jerry Hendricks, and I'm here today with my good friend and co-host, T. Hamilton.
Hey, Jerry.
Oh, I forgot to mention that you were MVP. We had our big softball game.
I was an MVP. I just got to sit there and play music. It was a good time.
Well, there was some discussion about where was going to be your happy place, in the field or on the microphone. And I said, I think he likes being on the microphone.
I did enjoy that. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. There's more control there.
There's more control there if you know what you're doing with the speaker system.
Yes, it was a fun night, and the food was good. No surprise there.
They did a good job.
A few special treats ahead of time that
Eli
Stan
had
prepared.
told me Cracker Jacks were in season, but they weren't in season at Sam's.
It is not Cracker Jack season.
Not at Sam's.
Who would have ever known that? Because baseball is still going on.
Yes, World Series.
World Series is happening. Dodgers come back from down a 3-1 deficit.
Yep.
And y'all think I don't know my baseball. I followed it a little bit.
Good job.
Just to know who was still in there and who's still playing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was a good night. You could tell also when it kind of turned from a dry, warm breeze to a cool breeze.
Yes, you could.
It was
I had a
nice.
little bit of a block, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so it was a good night to get your allergies kicked off if they haven't gotten kicked off already.
Yes, it was.
I went home and took my allergy medicine, went to bed, and yesterday wasn't too bad. So
watching the kids play was awesome. The little ones, when they hit and ran, they had a blast.
We had a lot of fun out there. I appreciate you putting all that together, and enjoyed being able to see everybody around a fun fellowship idea, which has been COVID challenged this year, but you've pulled off a couple of good things for us.
It went well. I was happy with it.
Well, thanks. We'll have to. Do we plan another one, or does it just kind of happen?
These last ones have just kind of happened.
Well, I know. Okay, we'll just wait and let something happen again. Well, Sunday was a day where we usually call it an independent study for those insiders. It's a study that we would do in between two series to kind of get the calendar to fit together well. We work backward from Advent, basically, and then we also goes all the way back to when school starts. So there are some Sundays in there that we have sort of a clean break between a series, and Sunday was one of those. It was a message that I really wanted to make as a series, and even after we left our podcast last week and we're talking about a message on prayer, once I got into it more the next day, I had all those reminders of why it's so difficult to talk about it. For one, there's that assumption that everybody kind of knows what you're talking about.
Right.
And certainly there's some things from the story that Jesus shared that kind of helped guide that along. But anyways, we did enter into at least I prepared for this a bit of a response for us.
Okay.
And I asked people if they'd be willing to, for 7 days, pray and consider how God would direct them in praying a bold prayer.
Right.
And then commit to praying that bold prayer for 30 days.
Yeah.
So I've already had some people respond to that, and
good.
If that's something that interests you, you go back and watch the YouTube. We didn't have Facebook Sunday. We had a little glitch there with some new features that we didn't adjust to, weren't aware of until we got started. That's kind of how it works when you're not doing that stuff every day. And go back, watch the YouTube video, and you'll get a chance to see kind of what that's leading up to. And email me, jerry@fbcsweetwater.org. And I don't need to know what you're praying. If you'd like to share that, that's fine. Either way, I'm going to be praying with you. Just let me know that God's given you a bold prayer and you're praying that prayer. So that's new to us.
That's cool that people have already done that.
Yeah. So I think part of the deal is it was a good way to set up the next series. Now, that's not, again, an independent study. That's not the goal.
Right.
But
it just happened to work that way.
Yeah, it sets up the series that we want to do next. And that series was inspired by a book I read last year or earlier in the year called Double Blessing. And it's by Mark Batterson, and he's another one of the frequently read folks around here, at least from my reading. And he talks a lot about prayer, and he's the one where I got the inspiration for praying a bold prayer was from his own life and a prayer that he prayed. But he kind of turns this idea of our relationship to God into how God blesses us and how we have the opportunity to bless others.
That's cool. I like Mark Batterson. We did Circle Maker with him, and it was a challenging read about how often we allow ourselves to pray prayers or to think about things in ways that we can accomplish them, and that's not glorifying to God at all. So I'm excited about this book. I haven't read Double Blessing yet, but I'll order it so we can go along with the series. Is it 4 weeks, 5 weeks?
It's a 4-week series. It leads up to Advent. Actually, before Advent, we'll have Communion Sunday.
Right, because Advent trickles into November this year.
Right. So we'll be into this, and the first 2 weeks are talking about how God blesses us.
Okay.
And looking through Old Testament, through Elijah and Elisha, their relationship. And then the other one, I think this is the direction I'm going to go because there's a lot more chapters and there's no Bible study written for this for me to kind of help pare it down. But I think for the next one, the second one, what I'll do is I want to use the story of Jacob, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then we'll talk a little bit about him. So 2 good Old Testament stories to kind of talk about God's blessing, how God blesses us, and how really we're created and intended to be blessed by God. We just need to look for that. Then the last 2 deal with this idea of how we bless others. And he uses a unique phrase for it. He calls it flipping the blessing.
Flipping the blessing.
Yeah.
I like it.
So one of the ways, a practical description of what flipping the blessing is that he says that whenever someone gives him a gift card, he flips that and gives it to someone else. Now, that's not regifting.
It's paying it forward.
It's paying it forward in a sense.
Okay.
But it's just a way to, I think it's what's interesting about how he talks about these ideas, and there's a lot of ideas in there that I hope that we can generate through our bold prayers, through this conversation about being blessed, and whether or not we've perceived that God really blesses us, and if he does, how he does that, and how that works in our life. But it will create, I'm hoping, a conversation for us about how we might creatively flip ways that God's blessed us into blessings for other people.
It's a good way to start thinking about how you live out your life and in relationship to others. I mean, it's a new creative way to think about that. Instead of just thinking about what can I do, it's seeing how God's doing something in your life and how you can turn that to others. I like that.
Right. And one of the consistent warnings is that we're not talking about something that's strictly financial, that God blesses us financially, so we do something to bless or give in another way.
Right.
I think the financial part is a part of the conversation, but it's only a small part of that conversation. It's really seeing everything and beginning to recognize in our life the way that God blesses us, and then look for ways that we might be able to bless others.
You know, maybe 6 months to a year ago, we had a really good conversation with Glenn Harrison. Well, not you and me, but I did, with Glenn Harrison about what a blessing is and what can qualify as a blessing and be seen as a blessing. And I bet they're going to, in their class, they go through the text that you're speaking on during the conversation. I bet they'll have some really good conversations in there to get ready for the conversation.
Right, I hope so.
Each week.
That we will continue to do the Bible studies that we've been doing. Those will be helpful as well. And I think will be a good opportunity for other people to jump on board with us and share this experience. And really it's, again, I think sometimes we have the expectation from the preaching segment of church that it's informative, and while there should be that informative element, there's what we're shooting for is that God would stir a conversation in us.
Right.
That conversation is dependent on being shared with someone. In other words, it's engaging. That's what I said about Sunday, was that in looking at prayer's conversation, that we can talk with someone about this. Of course, I have my friend here, T, that I get to talk about that with a little bit here on the podcast and in other places as well. But
well, you said Sunday that if you aren't engaging another person in the conversation, then you're really just talking to yourself.
Right.
And that made me laugh. And your daughter, Sarah, was up there in the balcony with me, and I gave her a hard time because she didn't laugh, and I said, you should have laughed, and she said, I didn't hear you laugh, and I think it was my mask muffled my little LOL. But it made me laugh, because it really is. Sometimes prayer is that way, because we come and we just say, God, this is what we need, and then we leave. We say amen and we're done, and we don't wait to listen and to hear. So, well,
I appreciate you mentioning that, because Sunday was one of those difficult Sundays for me, trying to read the crowd for some reason. I didn't feel engaged with the folks there, and I had no idea that anyone laughed at anything I said.
I did. It's just those masks; they muffle the laughter, I guess.
Yeah. So that's what it was.
See how much louder that was?
That was much better. So. Well, we look forward to this time Sunday, where we kick off this series and really this thought. Follow us along on social media, because we do want to find some other ways to help stimulate this discussion besides just with one another. Maybe some others can get involved with this that are part of our community but not necessarily part of our church.
Right.
So we look forward to being able to do that, think about what it means to be blessed by God, and then how we can return that blessing to the people that we encounter or to people around the world. So it's going to be really good for us to be able to do this. Particularly, I can't believe I missed this. All of these are ramping up to Thanksgiving weekend.
Right.
So it's a season when we were thinking about what we're thankful for, which is just another way of thinking about the way that God's blessed us. So look forward to you joining us, whether you are live with us in worship on Sunday or whether you join us through one of our live streams. We look forward to being a part of your weekend worship.
See you then.